Welcome to Do the Math America, where math is as easy as surfing in Munich. We continue our study of decimals, the adding and subtracting of decimals out of the beginning algebra book, pages 31 and 32. You can find a link to the PDF file of this book in the description box below this video. I suggest you print out pages 31 and 32 to follow along this lesson. Adding and subtracting decimals. To add or subtract with decimals, we write one decimal under the other and line up the decimal points. This automatically line up the place values. Add zeros after the last digit when necessary. Add or subtract as with whole numbers. To add or subtract decimals and whole numbers, we rewrite each whole number as an equal decimal with a decimal point and zeros after the last digit. 33.050 plus 24.573. So we line up the decimal points and the numbers accordingly. And we start from the very right-hand column. 0 plus 3 is 3. 5 plus 7 equals 12. We write down the 2, we carry the 1. 1 plus 5 equals 6. Write down the 6. Write down the decimal point. 3 plus 4 equals 7. Write down 7. And then 3 plus 2 equals 5. Write down the 5. 57.623. $33.050 minus 24.573. Spread out your digits, line up the place values, line up the decimal points. So now we do the subtraction from the far right, and we see we need to borrow for 0 minus 3. We borrow from the 5, make that a 4. Add a 10 to the 0 to make it 10. 10 minus 3 equals 7. Write down 7. And now we need to borrow because 4 is less than 7. So we borrow from the 3 to make that a 2. Add a 10 to the 0 to make it 10. Borrow from the 10 to make it 9. Add a 10 to the 4 to make it 14. 14 minus 7 equals 7. And we write down the 7. And now we have 9 minus 5, which equals 4. Write down 4. Write down the decimal point. 2 is less than 4. We borrow from the 3, make that a 2. Add a 10 to the 2 to make it 12. 12 minus 4 equals 8. Write down 8. So the answer is 8.477. Next example, 12.00 plus 34.45. Line up the decimal points and all the numbers accordingly. Spread out your digits. We start from the far right column. 0 plus 5 equals 5. And then 0 plus 4 equals 4. Write down the decimal point. 2 plus 4 equals 6. And then finally 1 plus 3 equals 4. 46.45. $34.00 minus 12.83. We spread out the digits, line up the decimal places, and we need to borrow from the 4 to make it 3. Add a 10 to the 0 to make it 10. Borrow from the 10 to make it a 9. Give a 10 to the 0 to make it 10. 10 minus 3 equals 7. Write down 7. 9 minus 8 equals 1. Write down 1. Write down the decimal point. 3 minus 2 equals 1. And then 3 minus 1 equals 2. The answer is 21.17. General rules for adding and subtracting two decimals. 1. If the signs are the same, we combine the decimals and keep the sign. 2.3 plus 3.6 equals 5.9. Negative 9.3 minus 6.8 equals negative 16.1. 2. If the signs are different, we take the difference and use the sign of the decimal having the larger absolute value. Same as we would do when we're subtracting integers. So for 2.3 plus 3.6, since they're both positive numbers, the answer will be positive, and we are just adding. So we start on the right-hand column, 3 plus 6 equals 9. Write down the decimal point, and then 2 plus 3 equals 5. The answer is 5.9. Negative 9.3 minus 6.8. So when you're subtracting, you add the opposite. So now you're looking at negative 9.3 plus negative 6.8. And when you're adding real numbers, you keep the sign, so it will be a negative answer, and then you just do this as a normal addition problem, starting with the right-hand column. 3 plus 8 equals 11. Write down the 1, carry the 1. And then 1 plus 9 plus 6 equals 16. Write down 16 and bring down the decimal point. The answer is negative 16.1. And then you box your answer. Negative 8.4 plus 5.2. When you're adding real numbers with different signs, you take the sign of the number with a larger absolute value. In this case, it is a negative. And then you treat the rest of the problem as if it's a normal subtraction problem. Subtracting from the right-hand column first, 4 minus 2 is 2, 8 minus 5 is 3. The answer is negative 3.2. Box your answer. 8.4 minus 5.2. Just treat that like a normal subtraction problem. It will be a positive answer because 8.4 is larger than 5.2. So subtract from the right-hand column first. 4 minus 2 is 2, and then 8 minus 5 is 3. The answer is positive 3.2. Box your answer. Example 1. 1.1 plus 0.11 plus 1.143 plus 10. So we write down all the numbers, lining up the decimal point. So we write down the decimal point and we make sure that all the numbers line up in columns accordingly. And we add zeros when needed. We start from the far right column. 3 plus 0 equals 3. 1 plus 4 equals 5. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 0 equals 3. And then 1 plus 1 equals 2. And then you bring down the 1. So you see how important it is to line up all your columns. The answer is 12.353. Example 2. 0.702 plus 2.06 plus 100.8 plus 24. So give yourself plenty of space, spread out your digits, and line up the decimals. And Sometimes it's easier to write the number backwards from the decimal point to make sure that all the numbers line up. And then add zeros when needed to keep your place values. And we start with the far right column. 2 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 equals 2. Write down 2. 0 plus 6 plus 0 plus 0 equals 6. Write down 6. 7 plus 0 plus 8 plus 0 equals 15. Write down the 5, carry the 1. Write down the decimal point. 1 plus 0 plus 2 plus 0 plus 4 equals 7. Write down 7. 0 plus 2 equals 2. Write down 2, and then bring down the 1. The answer is 127.562. Box your answer. Example 3. 25.12 plus 7.34 plus 95 plus 0.3. So write down all your numbers. Give yourself lots of space. Line up the decimal points, all the place values. Add zeros when needed to create place markers. And then start with your right-hand column. 2 plus 4 plus 0 plus 0 equals 6. Write down 6. 1 plus 3 plus 0 plus 3 equals 7. Write down 7. Write down the place decimal point. 5 plus 7 plus 5 plus 0 equals 17. Write down 7, carry the 1. 1 plus 2 plus 9 equals 12. Write down 12. The answer is 127.76. Box your answer. Example 4. 0.89 minus 0.5. So we write down the numbers, line up the decimal points, and we subtract. 9 minus nothing equals 9. 8 minus 5 equals 3. Write down the decimal point and write a 0 in front of the decimal point. The answer is 0.39. Example number 5. 326 minus 28.24. So we write down 326 minus 28, lining up under the place value. And then we need to add a decimal point and a 00 behind 326. So we need to borrow from the 6. Make that a 5, add a 10 to the 0 to make it 10. Borrow from the 10 to make it 9, add a 10 to the 0 to make it 10. 10 minus 4 equals 6, write down 6. 9 minus 2 equals 7, down the decimal point. And then 5 is less than 8, so you must borrow from 2 to make it 1. Add a 10 to the 5 to make it 15. 15 minus 8 equals 7, write down 7. And then 1 is less than 2, so we must borrow from 3. Make that a 2. Add a 10 to the 1 to make it 11. 11 minus 2 equals 9. Write down 9. And then bring down the 2. The answer is 297.76. Box your answer. Example number 6. 343.7 minus 125.325. So we write down all the numbers, spread out our digits, line up the place values, line up the decimal points. And we see that we need to add zeros behind the 7 so we can complete the subtraction. And we need to borrow from the 7 to make it a 6, add a 10 to the 0 to make it 10, borrow from the 10, make it a 9, add a 10 to the 0 to make it 10. 10 minus 5 equals 5. Write down 5. 9 minus 2 equals 7. Write down 7. 6 minus 3 equals 3. Write down the decimal point. 3 is less than 5. We must borrow from the 4. Make that a 3. Add a 10 to the 3 to make it 13. 13 minus 5 equals 8. Write down 8. 3 minus 2 equals 1. Write down 1. And 3 minus 1 equals 2. Write down 2. The answer is 218.375. Box your answer. Example 7. In an 800-meter relay, the time ran in seconds by 4 runners are 28.43, 29.2, 28.52, and 30. What is the total time? So we write down the times. 28.43 plus 29.2 plus 28.52 plus 30. And now we write it down as a column so we can add those numbers. Make sure we line up the digits and the decimal places and give ourselves lots of space. Try to make this as clearly in a column form as possible. Add zeros when necessary to keep the place values. And we start with the far right column. 3 plus 0 plus 2 plus 0 equals 5. Write down 5. 4 plus 2 plus 5 plus 0 equals 11. Write down the 1. Carry the 1. Write down the decimal point. 1 plus 8 plus 9 plus 8 plus 0 equals 26. Write down the 6, carry the 2. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3. Make sure you get all those digits written down clearly and added up properly is 11. And write down 11. The answer is 116.15. Make sure include the units, which is seconds, and then box your answer. Example number 8. John has $284.56 in his checking account. What will his balance be after writing 2 checks for $102.30 and $46.52? So first we write down the facts of this problem. In his checking account, he has $284.56. So we write that down nice and clearly. That's how much money he has to start with. And he writes 2 checks for $102.30 and $46.52. So we'll need to add 102.30 plus 46.52. So we write those numbers down and we line up the decimal places and the numbers, the digits accordingly, adding from the right column first. 0 plus 2 equals 2, write down 2. 3 plus 5 equals 8, write down 8, write down the decimal point. 2 plus 6 equals 8, write down 8. 0 plus 4 equals 4, write down 4, and then bring down the 1. So he's written 2 checks for a total of $148.82. Now we need to subtract that from the original amount, which is 284.56. So 284.56 minus 148.82. Write those numbers down nice and clearly. Make sure you line up the decimal points and all the place values. Subtract from the far right column. 6 minus 2 equals 4. Write down 4. 5 is less than 8. We must borrow from the 4 to make that a 3. Add a 10 to the 5 to make it 15. 15 minus 8 equals 7. Write down 7. Write down your decimal point. 3 is less than 8. We must borrow from the 8 to make it a 7. Add a 10 to the 3 to make it 13. 13 minus 8 equals 5. 7 minus 4 equals 3. 2 minus 1 equals 1. And as I said earlier, write down the decimal point. John has $135.74 remaining after writing his 2 checks. Okay, now you should be ready to take on the problem sets on page 32. And as usual, I suggest you do as many problems as you need in order to get a strong grasp of the material, including the word problems, which you should practice so you get used to thinking about word problems and how to set those up as an equation, checking your answers against the solutions in the back of the book. If you find this video helpful, please give me a like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for watching my video.